Men are lonely, and they always seem to feel lonelier than women. I can say that with confidence. And there's one truth. Out of 8 men, only about 1 or 2 can actually mention a real close friend, while the other 6 are just, nah. I don't know if they're truly close friends, or just people they used to play games with, or people who sat next to them long enough that they somehow defaulted into being the boys. If you don't believe me, then let me explain it through a psychological lens. To answer that question, we have this chart. Back in 1990, for every 100 people, around 3 men had no close friends, and by 2021, that number had risen to about 15 men with no close friends. For women, the number was around 2 in 1990, and 10 women with no close friends in 2021. That means it's not just men, but society in general is having fewer close friends than before, though men seem to be falling harder in this slide. But if you think the 2021 data is already kind of old and might be outdated, then according to Gallup, 25% of American men, meaning 1 in 4 men aged 15 to 34, said they felt lonely a lot the previous day, which is also higher than women in the same age group at 18%. Of course, I'm not saying this to separate who suffers more than who, but just look at reality for a second. If it's 2 men talking to each other, would you really say your most private stuff out loud? Like, yo, my girlfriend said my is small. That's the kind of thing women are often more willing to share with each other. Don't misunderstand me. They don't have that, but they will share other issues related to sexuality way more naturally. Or, if we admit our real sexuality to each other, I'm pretty sure a few, not even a few, but a lot of those supposedly close friends will suddenly become very busy. That's because female friendships are often built more through empathy and emotion, while for us guys, they're usually built through shared goals or shared activities. Most women become close by checking in, sharing emotions, and talking about what they're going through. Meanwhile, us guys usually become friends because of shared interests or shared goals. Playing the same game, working together, liking the same topic. Male friendship is real, but it often takes the side road through activities instead of going straight into emotions. I have friends I've known since elementary school. I've known them for almost 17 years now, but what their parents do, if you asked me, I still wouldn't know. We might know what each other likes to eat, what games we play, but very basic information about family, emotions, or deeper private stories can sometimes be completely missing. Usually, I only meet them when they've already solved the whole situation and are just retelling the story afterward. Some research and observations in social psychology also point out something pretty interesting. When men are asked whether they want to share more deeply with someone they consider a close friend, many of them usually say yes. But when you ask them to actually do it, they don't. Truly tsundere behavior. In psychology, this may be related to something called pluralistic ignorance, meaning each person inside may want something, but they assume the other person doesn't want it, so everyone stays silent together. The reason may come from the fear of being judged for masculinity, something that has existed for a very long time through both social pressure and evolutionary theories about status, competition, and position within the group. Since the time humans lived in groups, being separated from the community has always been dangerous. For both men and women, being pushed out of the group could mean losing protection, losing resources, and reducing the chance of survival. But for men, status in the group is often strongly tied to being respected, being recognized as capable, and not being seen as weak. But from a social psychology perspective, men are often socially rewarded for being strong, controlled, and less emotionally vulnerable. So hiding flaws may have once helped someone look more stable, stronger, and more trustworthy in the eyes of the group. If I'm wrong, then, well, this is my personal opinion to be honest, but I think there is some logic here. When a man believes that weakness will make him lose value in the group, he learns to hide it. At its core, that method is not always wrong. In some situations, staying calm, not breaking down immediately, and being able to control emotions can help a person get through a difficult moment. But the long-term consequences are huge, because when our brain, especially for men, becomes sensitive to status in the group, being judged becomes a very strong source of stress. If we are respected in the group, we can receive support, trust, opportunities, and a sense of belonging. But if we are not respected, men become extremely stressed, and science calls this kind of pressure social evaluative threat. Simply put, it is a type of threat that comes from being evaluated by other people. That's also why we men rarely share with each other, because sharing can be understood as creating a weakness, and creating a weakness makes people afraid of losing respect or support from the group. So in short, they have fewer close friends. Meanwhile, women in many social contexts are often encouraged to communicate emotions more, check in more, share more, and build support networks through emotional intimacy. One side is taught that saying it out loud will make it lighter, while the other side is taught that shut up and be strong. And so men grow up with a very strange skill set, knowing how to endure, knowing how to joke, knowing how to act like nothing is wrong. But there's actually one thing that makes me even sadder. Because after a very, very long time through so much evolution, this story is still the same. For a little boy, people always say, you have to be strong. A man must have ambition. Boys can't be weak. These standards of having to be strong, having to hold it together, having to handle things alone, make grown men later hide so many parts of themselves. And I'm also an example. I've also had to hide a lot of emotions and once saw them as weakness. The way to hide that weakness is to cry on the internet. Don't let any of them find my clone account. Meanwhile, a little girl will have different standards. They are often expected to become emotional support, know how to take care of the family, be thoughtful, know how to listen, and later be very wise when choosing a life partner. This is not light either. It is just another form of pressure. But because women are often socially allowed to talk about emotions more, they have more chances to practice sharing and building deeper connections. Of course, over time, these old sayings have become less common compared to the baby boomer generation, and gradually both men and women are reshaping new ideas about gender, emotion, and intimacy. Young men now are somewhat more open, know how to talk about mental health more, and know how to admit loneliness more. But all I know is that this change will not happen completely at this moment, and it may not even fully happen in our children's generation. Patterns that have existed for a very long time also need a very long time to change. And that is my perspective on men and their loneliness through psychology, social data, and the reality I've personally experienced. So what about you? What issue do you want me to look into next? Comment down below. Paw signing out. Stay sharp, stay weird.